services side, we work exclusively with B2B SaaS companies. We work very heavily in the cybersecurity space. We know what it's like to go after technical buyers that are skeptical, that don't want to give out their private information. So really excited to dive into these audits in the world of LinkedIn specifically. And then on the launching side, we also launched our SaaS recently called Sammy that lets you build automated workflows to optimize your ads 24/7. It's actually something that we were using in the agency over the last year. It was like one of our secret sauces, if you will, or secret weapons to like drive results for clients. And through Sammy, we're able to do things like if my ad spends more than $300 and it doesn't generate a lead, turn it off and send me an alert in Slack. If my frequency is greater than 5 and my CTR is less than 0.3, send me an alert of ad fatigue, time to refresh. So through the process of like people and tech, we can really get programmatic about how we scale full funnel paid media programs, which is really the thing that we really focus on. So enough of us. I'm excited to dive into the audits and dive into the examples here for everyone. And one thing I just want to touch on really quick, Maria, when I was looking at the submissions, some folks were like, oh, I would be interested in audit, but like, please be gentle, be nice. Like this is going to be an open forum, right? Like I'm not here to go in and, just call things out in a negative way, right? Like the idea is like, we'll all grow, we'll all learn, and we'll all adapt. Like none of us, woke up one day and like mastered LinkedIn ads, right? Like it's something that it's like through trial and error, and that through feedback we get better. So if you guys do have that hesitation, like rest assured you're in a safe place.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to, his feedback is usually very constructive, and it's like, what if we thought about this way instead of terrible, big F. All right, so we picked 3, and I can't tell, obviously, in the attendee list. I'll have to go back to the list. I can if we have to. But Silvio wanted to go through these 3 that said yes to doing this live with us. So if you're here from SNCC, Zscaler, or Sempris, raise your hand and I will bump you up to panelists. And here we go. Yay. Jessica. All right. I'm going to bump you up to panelists. If you don't want to be on camera, that's totally fine. And I'm going to stop sharing. That way we could kind of just like talk. You could see all of us. Jessica, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay. Jessica, you are at?
I'm at Sempris.
Okay, perfect. All right. I feel like this is one of those, call the psychic at 1-800, whatever. So Jessica, what questions do you have for Silvio?
I don't think I have any particular ones other than probably the biggest thing is audience targeting. Because I've been between focusing on job title versus doing job function and following with skill. Our audience is very niche. It's anyone that's in Active Directory, Entra ID, and Okta. So it's not just a general cybersecurity. It's a really niche area. And that's where I don't want the entry level ones, but I know CISOs aren't really looking at blogs and things like that because they're not the decision makers. So it's trying to figure out the right audience for us without being $20 a click. We removed the LinkedIn Audience Network, but any tips around that would be very helpful. It's kind of me running the LinkedIn ads, the Google ads, the Bing ads, 6 cents. So any help would be appreciated.
We feel
absolutely.
Everybody here is like, oh yes, I feel that pain. I know how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, so you're only going after the subset of users that are using those specific technologies?
Correct.
Okay, so that adds a layer of complexity because now it's not good enough to just do, industry equals X and then CISOs, et cetera, because you need to make sure that they're using that technology in order to actually reach the right buyer.
Yes, that's correct.
Talk me through, before we get into like the nuance of like titles versus function and, like the itty bitty, talk me through like the data that you're using. Are you using account lists that you guys have built where you scraped a list of people that are using Okta or AD?
No, the only list we currently are using is we call it a gold, where these are the companies we know use it and we are targeting them. And then adding the complexity of, yes, you're in this company plus this job function plus this skill set. Because it does get harder if we're doing job title where there's been like risk assessment and things like that, but then that kind of falls under the finance function.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only one.
How?
I'm unable to upload customer lists to do any kind of lookalike just based on our legal team.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not allowed to do that. And that's where it's just like, it's kind of blank slate, I guess you could say.
Yeah. How confident are you on that company list that you guys put together?
I'm pretty comfortable with it and confident using it. It's just figuring out how to pull the right people from those companies.
Yep. Awesome. That's great. So the first thing with LinkedIn is you want to source the list. So even for those of you listening that are not necessarily doing ABM, but you're doing demand gen, and you're not necessarily working in tandem with sales and you're trying to go after a list of accounts, like just sourcing a list and starting from there is a really good place for LinkedIn ads. The reason why is there's this concept of super titles in LinkedIn and multiple open roles, meaning you could target somebody, you could use LinkedIn targeting, and you can say, if they're in this industry and they have the title of CISO. But if that person has two open roles, maybe they're the CISO of a 10-person startup on the side, and then they work in, the industry of target, like LinkedIn will look at those two roles, mix and match it, and then decide that that person is eligible to receive the ad. So one way to just get ahead and reduce a lot of waste from the offset is by sourcing a list and then uploading that list. So in terms of before you even launch the campaign, if you haven't done this yet, Jessica, I would upload the list into the audience insights tool in LinkedIn ads, and then you can see what companies are matching against it, and then what job titles as well LinkedIn is matching against it. And then from there, what you could do is you can add up to 100 exclusions of job titles. So you can just start to hack away at the irrelevant job titles from the beginning. So you kind of already start out ahead before launching the campaign. One other thing that I will mention is like, no form of targeting is ever 100% accurate. So going for 100% accuracy is kind of a flawed concept. On LinkedIn, you could definitely reach at least 70, 80% accuracy because of the precision of targeting. But especially when you start to get outside of LinkedIn and you scale on other channels, it becomes a bit more fuzzy. But the distribution in terms of cost is so much cheaper where the math works out. So now that you have that list and you guys are confident in the list, what I would do is I would look at the audience insights tool and see where are there opportunities to just exclude. And that could already be like a quick win to just start out ahead if you haven't done that yet.
Mm-hmm. Are you know how you can upload save like exclusion list of like we don't want to target any of these companies?
Mm-hmm.
You do the same thing, I guess, with an exclusion title list. That way, I already
Exactly.
have an Excel sheet. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you can really add to the exclusions
Okay.
with titles, and then in addition to that, of course, you can exclude like existing customers, competitors, partners, things like
Yeah.
that, just to refine it even more. And then whenever you're launching into a new audience, the same applies to like a new channel, basically something unproven. What we like to do is we like to run like a pilot campaign. So the pilot campaign is basically offering something that can convert on cold traffic. So it's something easy for a stranger to say, hey, that's interesting, I'll sign up. So we're not talking like a demo here or even a free trial. Like for context, it could be a webinar, it could be an ebook, a checklist, something that's like high perceived value, low risk. And you basically launch this offer to the audience that you're trying to prove. And then what that allows you to do is it allows you to get leads or signups. So then you can vet the names, the titles, and the companies coming through to validate if that audience is actually good or not.
Okay. I'm hesitant because we've tried like different kinds of like ebooks and white papers, and it's come back like very expensive for a lead, and they've been like junk. So that's why I'm always hesitant, and I'm always trying to the awareness consideration phases more. But
whenever, did you have something, Maria?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to talk about the example that you did where it's like the low risk offer that you high value but low risk, like you offer 15 minutes free consultation to fix your ads, and that's kind of like how you're targeting what would then be maybe 6 months from now, you know, an opportunity created. I think we tried to do something similar to here for the society, where it's like, hey, talk to me for 15 minutes. I'll talk to you about cybersecurity marketing best practices for free for 15 minutes. And it's kind of like a lower risk, no strings attached kind of offer.
Yeah, do you
Yep.
think, for me, for marketing, it works, but those in cybersecurity, like, well, I don't now want to be pitched or send emails for sales after sales to do, you know, an audit or whatever they have.
This is where, so just unpack it. If you're getting in front of the right audience and they're not responding, which a lot of people have this issue, especially in remarketing, you know, you're getting in front of the right people, but they're just not doing what you want, right? They're not converting, they're not really engaging with the ads. That basically signals to a deeper problem, which is there's either a lack of clarity or motivation. So that's where getting creative and coming up with what we call a no-brainer offer really comes into play. So for context, the Fix My Ads audit is very specific to us, like in the agency world and the people we're going after. But the way it works in practice, and then I'll show you like an example that you could use, is instead of us going to cold traffic, right? Let's say I have a perfect list of accounts, perfect job titles, like it's ideal. And I go to that list and I say, hey, book a demo, right? Maybe it costs me like $5,000 to get an opt-in, right? It's just too expensive. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. The conversion rates are too low. Instead, what I could do is I say, you know what? Let me come up with an offer that can convert these people with low trust. And then it allows me to pre-frame myself as a solution and then drive them to the thing that I ultimately want, which is to book a demo. So what that could look like is a webinar. And webinars typically work well for most industries, especially cybersecurity. But the way people do it is typically where it gets lost. So for context, like if I did a webinar and I did a webinar on the topic, how to get started with LinkedIn ads, and I promoted that to this perfect audience, I could get people to sign up. Maybe I get lucky. Some of them book a demo right away. But reality, most won't book for 6-9 months in the future. Versus if I just change the topic and I said, instead of how to get started with LinkedIn ads, how to fix your LinkedIn ads ROAS in the next 60 days. The people who sign up to that second webinar, it already implies a lot of things. They're running ads on LinkedIn, it's not doing very well, they need help. So whatever content you promote, whatever offers you create for ads specifically, they must always be centered around deep pain points. And then in addition to that, especially in the create stage, which is all about building brand affinity and trust, you can also think of it as tofu, you want to use offers that allow you to accelerate brand affinity and trust. So usually video content is the strongest. So that's why we really love webinars, because if somebody signs up to that webinar and they're learning how to fix their LinkedIn ads ROAS, in the span of 15, 20 minutes, I can take somebody from unaware to problem aware to solution aware in that time frame, right? And then from there, I can bridge them to my offer of like, hey, if you're having this issue, let's talk ads, right? And you can book a free Fix My Ads audit as an example. So for you and for most SaaS companies that we speak with that are struggling with low conversion rates from paid, it's usually because they don't have a good Trojan horse or no-brainer offer that they can use against cold traffic to get people into your world so that now you can pre-frame them. And even if they don't convert to an SQL right away, which most people won't, you can now capture their email, so you can email market them. You can remarket them across channels because they'll get cookied. But it's just like a very strategic first touch point with your brand of like how you can indoctrinate them. I'll pause because I know that's a lot. And I can walk you guys through some examples if it's helpful.
I'd be open to looking at examples. It kind of helps me to understand them.
Sure. And I have, I took a look at your guys' LinkedIn ad library beforehand, so I have some other points of feedback here, but
Great.
I think this will be helpful for everyone.
And Silvio, we're doing good on timing. We have 20 minutes in. I think
keep me honest because I can go for
yeah, I think if we spend another 5 minutes with Jessica.
Okay, cool. I'll go through this quickly just because the amount of people that we talk to that have challenges with low conversion rates from paid, I think this will be relevant for most people. So I'll walk you through an example here with a webinar. So I'll share my screen here. So here's an example of a webinar funnel that we built for ourselves for cybersecurity. So in this case, like we're trying to get clients in the cybersecurity space, like, and we're driving people to this registration page. They opt in. Instead of like, which is one of the things that I noted here for you guys, is instead of asking for 6 fields of information up front on a piece of content, you know, ask for the minimum, ideally just a work email. And then if you need to further qualify, that's where multi-step forms are really powerful. So you ask for the email on the first step, and then you get the additional information on the multi-step. So this way, even if they drop off and they don't fill out the entire form, you got their email address. So that means you can follow up via email, you can nurture them through email marketing, right? But you don't miss the opportunity because they get intimidated by a massive form. So you can see here we're pre-qualifying.
Right? Sorry.
Yeah, this tool we're using is called Perspective. You could even build this in your CMS if you want, but we like this tool. So you can see here I'm pre-qualifying the user before they sign up for the webinar. And then here what we're doing is we're even like offering them a free Fix My Ads audit just to see, you know, before they get on the call, like if we can get some early meetings. And then if they don't, it's totally fine. Now they go to the webinar, and here on the webinar, we pre-frame and we bridge ourselves as a solution to their problem. Like, hey, if you need pipeline with cybersecurity, here's how we generated 1 million in 90 days for a prospect, right? And we're showing them exactly how we did it. And then what we're doing is we're connecting the bridge from, hey, you signed up for this thing. Now go to the main thing that we want you to do, which is book a meeting, right? Let's talk ads. And what this does is this gives us a level of predictability, right? I can optimize this as a performance marketer. So if there's a leak in my funnel, I can see where it is. Is it the cost per lead is too high? If the cost per lead is too high, well, maybe there's something going on with my ad, the audience targeting, the way I'm positioning the offer itself, right? So I can optimize the cost per lead. I'm getting leads, but not enough of them are actually clicking on this button to go to the next step in my process. Okay, I can work on that. Maybe it's my webinar. Maybe it's the delivery, right? Did I spend the first 20 minutes introducing myself and not getting to the point, right? All of these little paper cuts go into like hurting your success of whether it works out or not. And then finally, okay, of the people that actually click Let's Talk Ads, how many people actually opted in, right? How can I make that process simpler? So what this does is you're creating a system, right, which allows you some level of predictability. And even if somebody doesn't go through this entire process, which most people won't, it's okay. Like the party doesn't stop because I got their email, or even if I didn't get their email, they got cookied. So now in remarketing, this is where we honor that B2B as a long, complex journey. And I can show them social proof content, product marketing content, thought leadership content, and I can further nurture those prospects across channels.
Okay.
Cool. I will pause, Maria. Just be good on time.
All right.
My pleasure.
Who is here from, thank you, Silvio. That was definitely informative. Who's here from SNCC? Raise your hand. Sneak. Never know which one. No, I don't think anyone is here. And so our other one is Zscaler. Is anyone here from Zscaler? Okay. No Zscaler, no Sneak. Who wants to come up? I mean, the floor is yours. If you, okay, Sam, there you go. Sam, I am bumping you to panelist, and feel free to unmute. And our psychic, LinkedIn ad psychic here, Silvio, is ready.
Okay, so I work at a company called Cyber Advisors. We are a small MSP, MSSP, and cybersecurity services provider. We do the whole kitchen sink whenever it comes to cybersecurity services. Recently, VMware reduced the amount of vendors that can resell their products. We are on that reduced list. So it went from 4,000 to 200. We've seen a lot of success with Google ads, but because VMware buys, you can buy VMware from VMware, they buy a lot of, Google ads are becoming really expensive. We don't do a lot of LinkedIn ads. because my boss just hasn't been able to make them profitable. So we've done mostly Google ads, and we're doing some other ads as well. So I'm curious, this is going to be our first time really trying this. We want to try to do a VMware ad with LinkedIn. We've not seen success. I'm brand new to the team, just started. This is my first time doing an ad campaign. So just curious about any tips that you might be able to give as like a beginner, and also doing something that like my team, who's a little bit more tenured, has seen fail before.
Yeah, so much. I think what would helpful is just like the checklist kind of that I run through in my mind of when I'm getting started and I'm going to launch a campaign, making sure that I hit off on each one. So the first one is the audience. You need to make sure that you're confident that you're reaching the right audience. So if we're talking LinkedIn, starting with a company list and getting very targeted is going to be the way to go. There's two ways you can do this in terms of, by the way, is there going to be sales support, Sam, on going
Yes.
after these? Okay,
Yes.
great. So if we're talking ABM, then we can do a one-to-one approach or a one-to-many. So one-to-one is meaning you stand up one campaign for one company with one specific offer. This makes sense when you're dealing with a situation like you're in right now, where you have a very small universe of companies you can sell into. It's worthwhile taking that additional effort to really put your best foot forward, right, to try to break into the account. So what that would look like in practice is you would have 200 campaigns in this instance, one per company, right, that you'd be able to sell into. As a starting point, that takes a lot of work because it's one campaign per company. If you
Right.
wanted to prove one-to-one, you could just start with a cohort, right? And this is also too, just for everyone listening, is like when you're getting started with ads, you can do an incrementality test. So for context, instead of targeting all 200 companies, what if you just started with 50? And then you ran ads against those 50, and then you, depending on your sales cycle, like let's say it's 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, you can monitor the progression of those accounts that you're exposing with ads over that sales cycle period. And then you can ask yourself fundamental questions like, did we book more meetings with the accounts that got ads versus not? Did we open up opportunities? Was the average deal size greater? Were the win rates higher? Were the deal cycles shorter, right? Just from a high level view, and by having that incrementality test can already give you a lot of confidence going in and scaling from there that, hey, the ads actually are having an effect. And for context, like from what we've seen with clients is they do help a lot. And not only that, they can help improve sales connect rates. So we've seen ads actually improve open rates from sales outreach. But if you're getting started and you don't have that confidence yet as a new org getting into it, these were like these small incrementality studies can help you get into it. So on the audience piece, definitely check, like you're going to want to do company list targeting. I think that's a general recommendation. If you wanted to get even more specific, then you could do one-to-one, but it's just going to be more upfront resources on your side. In addition to that, once you have the audience dialed in, what I would be thinking about is like the ad and the messaging. One thing that I wrote down in terms of like when I was auditing some of the brands for today is a lot of brands, they kind of fall into the trap, especially when you're a larger organization, they fall in the trap of just broadcasting on LinkedIn versus educating, where they're basically using their LinkedIn and their LinkedIn ads to just broadcast to the audience at large, right? Where they're like speaking in the third person, it doesn't really resonate. So for you, think about for the brands you're going after, like what are the 2 to 3 deep pain points and messaging stories that you want to make sure that they associate with your brand. So for context, like what this looks like in practice, here's like a quick sketch work here from Mimecast that you guys can see. So for Mimecast, like there's 3 stories. Number 1 is humans are risky. Number 2, secure your client's trust. And then number 3, phishing beyond email. Like these are the 3 stories, like in this hypothetical example, if we're running ads from Mimecast, that we want to bring to the market. So all of the creative concepts and the messaging ties to the story. So this allows you to shift the narrative from like just broadcasting noise to educating and like telling a more cohesive story. And then this then would connect to the next piece, which is once you've got the audience down, the messaging, the offer, which is where most B2B brands really need to think about. So what's something that you could launch to these accounts that they would be willing to convert on because the perceived value is high and the risk is low? So that's definitely not going to be a demo. And that's where most people they go wrong with LinkedIn, because they can do demo on search, because it makes sense because people are already solution or problem aware, right? They're just trying to find a solution to their problem. When people are on LinkedIn, they're not looking for solutions. They're, they're reading posts, they're just browsing, etc. So you want to come up with something like, a webinar is like an easy starting point that people would convert on, and then you can bridge yourself as a solution. Does that? I'll pause there if there's any questions, or Sam.
No, that makes sense. And that's really helpful. I need to think on some things a little bit more before I figure out if I have any more questions on that, though.
And it's a game of experimentation too. Like for context, like with us, with Sammy is our new SaaS that we're launching in the market. For us, I have no idea who my ICP is, So like I'm going into it as like ground zero. I have an assumption that there's like 5 potential people. Like it could be e-commerce, it could be B2B SaaS marketers, it could be agencies, and it can be small businesses, because all of these people could benefit from Sammy. So what I'm doing as a brand new brand in this instance, going to the market, first thing I'm doing is I'm not going to go to the market and just say, schedule a trial with Sammy, even though I think it could convert. It's just the cost will be too high. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm coming up with my no-brainer offer. So like for context, one of our clients, we automated 350K a month in LinkedIn ad spend using Sammy. So what I'm doing is I'm doing like a case study breakdown of how we automated that. And that's going to be the offer that I launch against these different segments of the market. And then I will plug Sammy as like, oh, hey, by the way, I use Sammy to do this. So if you want to use Sammy for 14 days for free, go check it out, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Trojan horse, if you will. Like, it's like how the Greeks took over the city of Troy. Like if they just ran up to the gates, they would have got killed, right? But instead they used this Trojan to get in, and only after they were in, they were able to sack the city.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, specifically for this ad campaign that we're going to do, like the big pain point is that, hey, probably the provider that you bought VMware through, you can't now. So your renewal is going to come up and you need to renew, and you're probably going to have to find someone new to do that with, so that's really the audience that we're looking to capture. So in terms of like, what is a low risk, high value thing that we can offer them? I don't, like I'm not sure that a webinar, maybe like we could do like a VMware webinar, but I don't know that would be the thing. Maybe, but I don't know a checklist, so I'm not sure like what other types of content might be something that I could consider for that, like low risk, but high value.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
Go
was
ahead, Maria.
just outline what is the top 3 challenges for your ICP in this particular situation, for them to renew or switch or whatever. What is going to be their biggest headache? And I think your answer to that could be that offer. Whether it's like, I don't know, maybe they need to do a new RFP, right? And go out there and find 3 new tools to vet or something. Maybe you can offer them that. And you would be one of the tools that they would vet, but at least you provided them with a tool that'll make their life easier. And you're like the favorite out of the 3 they're going to end up with. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is the fun part, like we have to get creative, think about like the pain points, what are the challenges, and then you test. Like in this case too, because it's such a specific niche situation, maybe what you could offer is saying like, hey, go with us, given the context of the urgency of hey, they have to make a decision now, so you have timing on your side, which is great, which means you have urgency. So maybe just offering like a guarantee could be good enough. Like, hey, if you go with us, we guarantee that in the first 30 days or 60 days or whatever case might be, we're going to get you set up correctly, just throwing it out there. So this is where you can test different angles and see what works.
Okay, cool. And would you say like that would be like a good thing to do, is to try like a couple of different messaging, like, like segment that out and then see what really works? Because earlier you mentioned, like running the ads like with a cohort, and then over a longer period of time looking to see like on the ABM side, like what's happening on the sales side, and is there more movement in the other metrics that we can track to show that the ad campaign is working, even if it's not like, hey, we got a sow out for this today. So I'm wondering if having a few versions of messaging might confuse that, or if it would be good to, have a couple different ones that we can, try now and then continue to look, over 3 to 6 months?
I would say, given so you can use exclusion audiences. So for context, like you can ensure that the two people don't see the same thing through exclusions. So that's how you could set up your test. So like this cohort only sees this messaging versus this cohort sees this other one. If you don't have time on your side, because that's going to take time, right, to run that test, and you just want to try to drive as many responses as you can, then the landing page that you create could be specific to this offer. So if people convert on it, they came from that specific thing, and then you can get that certainty that it's working.
Okay.
And for everyone on the call too, like easiest way for attribution, like if assuming everything, you just need to get something done fast, like just create a spin-off of your landing page that's specific for that channel. So if you ever get an opt-in from that landing page on that form, the only way they could have ever found it is from the ads on that channel.
Yeah, I think that's easy. I mean, I think a lot of us have quite a messy tech stack and CRM and all of that, and UTM parameters are not being captured and all that. I think that's like the easiest answer, to be honest, even for those of us that have a sophisticated setup. Okay, I think we have one more. Phil, not right. I'm gonna ask you to come on and tell us a little bit about what you're trying to make work.
Okay, hold on. Let me find my camera.
And thank you, Sam, for sharing your story.
Hi, Maria. Hi, Silvio. I'm working with a very early stage company in the cyberspace, and I wanted to try a few things on LinkedIn, really just for brand awareness. So that was the goal that I chose in the LinkedIn campaigns. And I'm looking at the results, and I'll be glad to share them in terms of number of impressions, number of clicks, average click-through rate, average CPM. I don't know how to measure success for these because there were no I didn't intend any conversions. Clicks would be nice, but I don't really know what they did with those clicks. So what are your thoughts on measuring success in a brand awareness campaign as opposed to a lead conversion campaign?
Yeah, I love it. So one quick question is what happens once they click on the ad? Where are they going?
So one of the ads was to a press release announcing our recognition in a Gartner report about our space.
Okay. So the first thing that really helps, and we'll use awareness for this specific example, but regardless if it's awareness, lead gen, acceleration, revival, expansion, whenever you launch anything, fundamentally, there is a hypothesis, an experiment in your mind that you are trying to prove or disprove. So one of the things that we always do is like we write hypothesis statements. So we'll say like, if this, then this, as measured by this. So if we run brand awareness ads to this list of accounts, then we believe we will see, and then this is where you specify like the leading KPI that you're looking for to understand success or failure. We believe engagement rate will go up, which will then ultimately result in more people downloading the press release, as an example. So this can already, just operating from the frame of mind of a hypothesis going in, will give you the foresight of what am I really looking at here, and like how am I going to judge success? Like the concept I always like to use is Netflix, for example, on the product world. There's a concept of proxy metrics. So for Netflix, their ultimate goal is to improve watch time. That's the main thing that they want to do, because fundamentally their business thesis is the more time people spend on Netflix, the more likely they'll keep their subscription because they're getting value, and so on and so forth. So what Netflix does is watch time is their lagging metric. So in your case right now, your lagging metric is people reading the press release, right? What is that leading metric? So for the Netflix example, their leading metric is click-through rate. They're always, I don't know if you guys have noticed on Netflix, like they're always changing the cards of the movies and the shows, like the images of the thumbnails, because they're split testing. That's their leading metric that they're trying to control, where they're like, if I can get more clicks, that will result in more watch time. So for you, and especially for B2B, when you're dealing with long sales cycles, like we can't wait 3 months to know if it worked or not. So that's where getting creative with the proxy metric is really helpful. So generally speaking, if you're driving off-site, so for example, like we're talking about a press release right now, but if you're driving to a blog, anything where you want people to consume content offsite, a leading metric that we love to use is an engaged visit. So an engaged visit is somebody that scrolls at least 50% of the way and stays for a minute on the page. It's a much better proxy metric or leading KPI to fundamentally like answer and help prove or disprove the hypothesis versus like a click or an engagement on the ad, right? Because fundamentally the hypothesis is the more people who read this thing, the more then this outcome will likely come of it. So that's kind of how I would think about it, Phil.
Yeah, awesome. How would you measure though engagement on a third-party site though? I don't have any tracking on those sites.
Okay, so it's a third-party site. Yeah, so that's the rough part. That, I mean, if they can install the pixel, that would be great. If not, then in that case, you can only rely on the front end. So on the front end, the only thing you can use at your disposal is like, what is the engagement rate? And then through LinkedIn ads demographics, you can see which companies are responding the most. So then from there, you would really use audience penetration on the front end to understand like, are enough people seeing this thing? Because if enough people are seeing it, then you can make the assumption enough people will click through. And then unfortunately, in this case, you don't have visibility onto the other side. So you can only really track up until that touch in the funnel.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I just share a few of the metrics with me and you'll tell me where they sit compared to what ChatGPT told me? Okay, so so on one of the campaigns, we spent about $537. We generated 20,000 or so impressions, and we had a click-through rate of 0.41% and an average CPM of $26. Is that good or bad?
I would say it's on the lower side. For context, like the good click-through rate on LinkedIn is 1%. So 0.4 is quite off. So I definitely think there's room for opportunity. There was a comment in the chat from Kevin, which I agree. Like if you can post the PR to your website and then drive traffic there, that's much better.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you, unfortunately, like right now, you're basically you're giving half of, you're blind essentially, right? Like where you don't really understand what are they doing, how are they reacting, etc. You know?
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely move the link to your press release on the website. You want those visits.
Of course.
There's opportunity. Sometimes what companies do and what marketing teams do is they'll write a blog from the CEO or from a subject matter expert about what the press release means to them, to their product roadmap, to the community as a whole.
Sure.
And in that blog, you have the opportunity to optimize it, add CTAs, and see who's either take them to another content piece relatable, or take them to the product page that shows, you know, the new things about the product launch. If this was a product launch, I'm not sure. And then, or you can also have a CTA for bottom of funnel for those people that are ready to talk. Instead of just sending them to the press release, whether externally or even in your news site. I don't know if that's the right place to send them to.
And got it. And one really tactical thing, Phil, and for the wider group as well, is thought leader ads right now are the top performing ad format on LinkedIn. So if you're promoting this release from your company page, you yourself could write a post on LinkedIn promoting it. And then you take that post and you boost it, and the average click-through rate and the average engagement rate and the cost of distribution is much cheaper compared to the image ad.
Got it. Compared to the image ad, what do you mean by image ads compared to thought leadership?
So the thought leader ad is taking a post from an actual person and then promoting it as an ad. The image ad or the video ad, basically it's called sponsored content that's coming from the business page, is typically much more expensive right now than the post from the actual individual.
Got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. I think we have time. I was saying we might have time for one more, but I think we have a few questions in the Q&A. Let's run through those and then see where time takes us. What do you think, Silvio?
Let's do it.
All right. Bruno is saying, do you run doc ads directly or you run traffic to a landing page to download the rich content?
I always struggle with these types of questions because for me, what it hints at is more of a misalignment of the core hypothesis and the strategy that you're trying to prove or disprove. So for context, if my strategy in the create stage, It's all about building brand affinity and trust. So if my strategy going into it is I want to drive as much consumption on this document ad, because then I believe if I can drive as much consumption on the document ad, I'm then going to retarget them with an ad to drive demos. Then if that's the fundamental hypothesis that I'm trying to prove or disprove, then I would be able to see in the remarketing, am I getting more conversions by retargeting the document ad engagement? Does it make sense? So it's always like, it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. And it's like the frame that you're taking it from. Because not to nerd out here, but like when you operate from that frame, then you start to break rules. You start to do things that like don't necessarily make sense in like the books, if you will, but like in practice, it makes a lot of sense. So generally speaking, if you are trying to maximize in-platform consumption, where you want to drive more eyeballs and like actually get people to watch or read, then promoting it in feed is always going to be stronger, right? If driving more consumption is your game, because they're on LinkedIn, they don't have to go anywhere, right? So give them the content in feed. That makes a lot of sense when you're basically trying to drive conversion through remarketing and you're trying to build a big pool of people as fast as possible. Vice versa, if your game and what you're trying to do is you are trying to drive more people to your website, because if they go to your website, the chances of them browsing around and looking at a second page and a third page is actually stronger than the in-platform consumption, then you would go that way, right? So it's kind of like, depends on what you're trying to do. I know it's a vague answer, but I think the thinking behind it is more important than the tactic.
Okay, Rachel, I thought that the minimum for list upload on LinkedIn was 300 companies. How do you recommend selecting a cohort of companies? Is it a manual selection in a LinkedIn audience builder?
Say that last part again, Maria, sorry.
Is it a manual selection in the LinkedIn audience builder?
When you're deciding on the cohort of companies to go after?
Yeah,
so
saying the minimum is 300, but how do you decide on the cohort from that, smaller?
Oh, I see. So it's up to LinkedIn. So basically when you upload the list, LinkedIn will then try to match the profiles against their database. So if in the case that some profiles are not be able to match, then they won't be eligible for ads targeting. It's just based on who LinkedIn is able to match. So what you can do is you can upload your list and then you can preview the list using the Audience Insights tool. And then in the Audience Insights tool, you can see the companies that it's matching against to get a better sense of like who made the cut.
Okay, love it. Well, I just brought up Rachel because I think she wants to add more content.
Hi there. Rachel Chapman from HackerOne. I asked this question while you were talking about when you're analyzing new campaigns or building a new audience. You recommended testing it with a cohort first of a smaller amount of companies, and when you were talking about a smaller cohort of companies, I got to think about the minimums for list uploads in LinkedIn and how to navigate those in order to select a cohort. So I was just curious, is that something where you're literally in the campaign builder selecting your audience and manually selecting the countries to do that cohort, or is there a fancier way to do it?
Yeah, great question. So when you're using company lists, and depending on the types of companies you're going after, but especially if you're going after enterprise, then it's usually not as difficult. But what we'll do first is we'll split out the audience based on the accounts that we believe are the most valuable to start with. We'll start there. We'll upload them as a company list. We'll see what the match rate looks like. For context, LinkedIn has about an average 90% match rate with company lists. So they're pretty good at finding companies. And then from there, we will filter down in the Audience Insights tool to see what does the actual audience size look like. That's kind of what it looks like in practice. We only really ever target one company at a time using the company name targeting if we're doing like one-to-one ABM campaigns. Otherwise, most of the time we're using company lists.
And then do you ever use 6 Sense lists to sync, to like build a segment in 6 Sense and sync them over? Or do you recommend always doing like an export from Salesforce and uploading it to LinkedIn natively?
No, so if you're using 6 Sense list and 6 Sense is part of your strategy and the whole concept is like sales is going after these accounts and then you want to do air cover, et cetera, then it makes more sense to make it be dynamic from 6 Sense because the accounts can like change, in terms of like where they are on their intent stages and things like this. So I would definitely do the dynamic. However, if you're really trying to prove or disprove a specific cohort of accounts, then it should be static because you don't want accounts coming in and out of the list.
That's a great, like if it's static, list upload in LinkedIn. If it's dynamic or based on intent, Sixth Sense sync so it can constantly change.
Correct. Yeah. And one thing I will say on Sixth Sense specifically, like we've tested Sixth Sense versus Zoom Info versus Warmly versus Qualified versus just like standard LinkedIn targeting. With not like a Sixth Sense thing specifically, but like any intent tools, don't assume they
That they're
actually have,
accurate.
yeah, like they actually have
Yeah.
intent, you know, because
Yeah.
if it really was that way, then you could just run a demo ad and it would convert, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like
Directionally
that.
accurate, but not scientifically so.
Correct. So you still need to come up with like a good offer that people would be interested in, right? Like those foundations still don't go out of the window.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. My connection was a little spotty. So maybe we have time for one more question. Nayan was saying, for thought leader ads, which campaign objective you've seen work great in terms of engagement rate and CPC? I'm opposed to use BA objective, brand awareness, just because of control LinkedIn takes in bidding.
So this one's an easy one. Engagement right now is the best from what we've tested. So I would definitely go with engagement, even if you're running a video. Like we find engagement to be the best right now in terms of not just like cost per click and engagement rates, but also the cost per landing page click is quite well so far. One thing too, just like a pro tip on thought leader ads, we've tested this link placement. So whenever you're gonna boost a post for a thought leader ad, first boost it organically, let it sit live organically for the first 48 to 72 hours, let it get as much organic traction as it can. Afterwards, edit the original post, and then if you can, if it makes sense, obviously like use your discretion, but if you can put the link right after the see more, when somebody clicks see more on the LinkedIn post, it'll drive a higher click-through rate than if you put it on the bottom of the post. Like we've actually tested the placements, which it makes sense, like when you say it out loud, but it's cool to have some data around it.
I love that. These are like the little hacks that you don't find in the textbooks, right? So yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. I think we are pretty much done, but there's one more thing I think we wanted to cover, or two more things. Cyber Marketing Con and this. Silvio, do you want to talk through your offer here, which we
Yeah, so this is me like eating my own dog food, right? So if you guys you like this stuff and you want like a one-on-one consult, you can scan the QR code and get a free Fix My Ads audit. It's a pure consult, just going through like what's live. We don't even need access to your ad accounts. We can use the ad libraries, and then we'll, just like what we did in today's call, but just on a one-on-one perspective with myself. Feel free to just scan that.
Fabulous. I feel like somebody needs to try this on the cybersecurity side, and somebody needs to come back and tell us how they did. Please. Like
one really just like I think to like bring the home the power of the offer, because this is the least talked about thing in B2B, but it's the most impactful. Anyone here ever experimented with incentives and like offering Amazon gift cards and things like that? Like, why is it that the moment you offer an Amazon gift card to take the demo, it starts to convert on the campaign, on cold traffic? When you remove the Amazon gift card, it doesn't convert anymore. Why? Because no matter what, you're always fighting against the equation of perceived value versus risk. Even if we choose to ignore it, it's always there in the prospect's mind. And the only reason why the incentive actually converts is because it tips the equation in your favor. Now, I'm not saying use incentives. The conversion rate from like opt-in to revenue is a completely different conversation, but just fundamentally the psychology behind the offer converting, why? Is because you made a better mousetrap, if you will, right? To get people interested.
True. It's human nature. It is, and market psychology. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. If you want to see more of these, let me know. I'd love to bring Silvio back for another cohort of marketers that could get some live advice. I hope to see you in Austin in December at Cyber Marketing Con. Silvio will be there, like I said, with his team. They have a speaking session, and they'll also have a booth. So if you want more time with them, you'll be able to see them there. And yeah, prices go up October 1st. So snag your tickets now. And then also pay attention to our events schedule. We'll be doing more tickets giveaways. We just did one today. We gave away 5 tickets. I think last week we gave away another 8. So keep an eye out. And thank you all so much for joining. See you next time. Thanks, Silvio.
Thank you.